Jackson is the king of the TV remote control at home. He has 10 channels of children's television to choose from 24 hours a day. So if he's watching something and he doesn't like it, he can flick to 9 other channels at that time to find something he does like. If he doesn't like what's on television, he can obviously choose a DVD. If he's watched all the DVDs, well then, he might get onto YouTube on his mum's phone. Or he might play a game. The reason kids love games is because whilst some games do have rules, they're quite broad rules. And there's a lot of room within games for kids to do what they want, explore in the ways they want, hypothesize, strategize, collaborate, working with others in any way they want. And the best thing about games, if you fail, you can just start again. And there's no stress. He goes on YouTube also, and I'm going to talk about YouTube a little later, but he also goes on YouTube. So this is my old PlayStation 2. And we found an old Sonic the Hedgehog game. Do you have Sonic the Hedgehog in Denmark? Beautiful, of course you do, it's brilliant. Jackson loves Sonic the Hedgehog. But when he gets to a new level, so the first couple of levels, nice and easy, you know, gets to a new one, it gets a bit difficult. And he'll start talking to me, Dad, how do you get up here? Is there a shortcut? How many rings do I need? Where's the baddies? That kind of thing. Now, I'm not necessarily the best person to ask Sonic the Hedgehog advice. I don't really know. So he goes onto YouTube and finds videos that tells him where the shortcut is. And then as soon as he goes that, he does it. He knows we've set up a channel for him. So he knows, you know, he knows how to use YouTube, how to search. He's only interested in Sonic at the moment. I want it to stay that way. You know, but he can search. But my very favourite piece of technology that Jackson uses is this camera. And with this camera, his favourite thing to do is take a picture of me, his dad, and then on the camera, cut out my head and put it on the target, and then on the computer you can push the buttons and throw balls at my head. The other thing he can do is he can take my head, again, just using this tiny device, and put it on top of the head of on top of the body of a monkey. And then if he desires, if he wants to, he can then email that by plugging that into my laptop, and he can email that to whoever he wants. At age 4. At age 4. When I was at school, or when I came home from school, I pretty much watched the same television program as all my friends did. When I went to school the next day and I said, what did you watch? They watched the same thing. When Jackson goes to preschool, everyone in his school has done something different. And I wonder, because I then think, well, my education was a little like that. Everyone, me and all my friends, did the same thing at the same time, the same way. Whereas kids today, whether it's some of the students we have here, or whether, I mean, who knows what technology is going to be available for Jackson when he reaches school, you know, high school. But the fact is that kids today can pretty much do anything they want, whenever they want, wherever they are. And I wonder if education recognises that. So that's basically my start point. Do we really recognise where our kids are coming from? And what does that mean when we then put them into this system and it's not quite living up to what they're used to doing, just normally, you know, this is what they do. One of the things I think that Australia has done really well with vocational education, and it's a big difference to here. In Denmark it seems to be it's either you do an academic education or you do a vocational one. And you have to make a choice and that's it. And that is difficult because when kids are 15, 16, having to make that kind of choice that they feel might impact the rest of their life, or the parents more often panic about it because, oh no, I thought you were going to go to university. You know, that can have massive issues. In Australia what they do is the lines are more blurred. You can stay at a mainstream school and do a vocational education and then come back to mainstream education, if you like, or use your vocational education to go on to university. So you don't need, if, for example, let's say you're 15 or 16, you don't really like school, but you do like messing around with cars. Okay, you like the engines. So you might start a vocational course which is on mechanics. You do that for 2 or 3 years and you get incremental certificates, not the equivalent to a high school, like an academic one, but you're specialising in mechanics. And then you think, well, I'd really like to get a more in-depth knowledge of this. I want to do engineering at university. The university will look at you and say, this kid has spent 3 years with it, just living mechanics or whatever, we'll accept you into a degree course. Or they'll say, well, if you really need to come in, you do need to go back and do another year of something. But what it does is there's no final decision to be made at 15 or 16. Everyone can say, yeah, well, right now I want to go and do something a bit more practical with my hands. I want to get out and do an internship and those kind of things. Without thinking, I'll never be able to go to uni, or that's the end of my academic career, which I think is really important. But since they've done that, there's been an increase of 30% of kids in Australia taking vocational courses. 30% increase. These kids would either have been stuck in doing an academic education that they weren't interested in, and you know what it's like when you've got kids who aren't interested in your classroom. Yeah, it's got massive knock-on effects. Or they'd have dropped out. So by blurring the lines, by saying, okay, we're going to actually stop this whole, competition between vocational and academic, we'll get rid of that. Let's think what our goal is. Our goal is about kids looking after the kids, getting them better. And if that means we need to take down those barriers, let's do it. And it's quite clear, 30% increase. And that's up in 2009. It's continued to go up, but I didn't have the stats to hand, unfortunately.